Hey, welcome to Risky Business with the Coverage Queens. I'm Kathy Kaler.
And I'm Bliss Landon.
Welcome to the episode today. We're very excited. We have a really interesting, I think both you and I are extremely interested in this topic of mental health, stress, anxiety, whether it's from parents, but really focusing on kids.
On our kids, yeah. Absolutely. Right? Yeah, it's very important. I think I wish we would have had this talk a little sooner.
A year ago.
But things keep changing and, better late than never, or, help us moving forward as we, more transitioning happening and our kids are having to, establish new normals again. And I think it'll just be really great to get some information. So we
need to have, I think, looking at, we're at 12, 13 months now and seeing kind of just the effects of these changes of kids being at home and just also the overlying reality of the fear of what happened, the change of routine. And, we can, as moms, we both have loads of kids
between the two of us,
but
loads.
It's really, it's really been hard to at times to navigate, like, what should we be doing? How do we respond to our kids? And so I think it's really great that we have an expert today, and we'd love to welcome our guest. Randy Noblitt is a therapist, family therapist, and I can't wait to hear about his background and more of actually what his title is and the types of folks that he works with. So Randy, you are on our Zoom today. Welcome to Risky Business.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thanks, Randy, for coming on our little show.
Absolutely. This is a very important topic.
It really is. It really is.
And you guys have known each other.
Yes. So Randy and I have a little bit of a connection. When I got his name, I said to him, I said, Noblet. I only know one other Noblet on this planet, and her name is Cindy Noblitt, and she was my high school softball coach and teacher. And he goes, yeah, that's my sister.
Yeah, it's funny, the connections.
I know.
So
it's always
definitely.
It's always a small world, always.
That's so great.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so we have a little bit of that, history. But anyway, Randy's a wonderful therapist. And so Randy, why don't you tell us about your background? Because you have kind of an interesting background too.
Yes.
So dive in.
Okay. Well, my background, I for many, many years, I worked in the business world, particularly in commercial real estate. So therapy wasn't far afield in some ways from many of the brokers that I dealt with over the years,
Sure.
Who could probably use my services now. But I dealt a lot with people. I was always one of those guys that everybody would come up to and go, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And I go, yeah. And they would tell me something personal, or they would ask about a problem, or, to convey some kind of an issue they were having. And I had kind of gone through the period of my life where I'd raised my family and was looking for something that was a little more meaningful. And through a series of life changes, as we sometimes go through some life events, I made a decision to go back to school and get my master's in psychology and to launch into a different field, hoping that I could make the last part of my life count in a different way than just raising my family and going through business. I wanted to launch into something where I could help people.
How old were you? Yeah. How old were you when you made that decision?
I was 55.
Wow.
When I went back to school.
That's amazing.
And, as it kind of started over. But it's been extremely rewarding. I haven't regretted 1 minute of it. I feel like in particular, why we're sitting here today, just seeing so much need. The hardest thing for me is keeping up with the number of people that want to come in.
Wow. Because
so many people have been affected, particularly by COVID. I was busy before, but it seems that, it has even gotten more busy. And some of the things that people have been more pronounced
Sure.
because of COVID. it's created a lot of stressors.
Have you always seen children in your practice?
I have seen throughout my time period, probably my focus when I started, I saw more younger people, meaning like all the way down as low as like 4 or 5 years old. My practice now probably is 13 and up, right in that range. So it would be, say, middle school to high school to early adulthood. And then I, do a whole host of other things. But in the age range you're talking about, it would probably be like 13 to 21, seeing college down to, say, junior high school. So that would be the brand. I don't see a lot of elementary at this point.
Yeah. I wouldn't think so. Yeah. So have you seen an increase in your patients that are in that age group lately?
I would say probably yes. I don't know that it's been a huge increase, maybe more so some that I was seeing where the issues have shifted a bit, but some increase.
Yeah. Okay. So, one thing that we've been hearing in the media, I think we've all heard this, is that suicide is on the rise, and especially with young adults and high school age kids, which is just so tragic and awful.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do we blame it on the pandemic? I don't know exactly what you blame it on, but what do you think, why is that happening? And, our kids pivoted to an at-home learning environment. And, with that, they lost their social, part of their lives. And so that's what I think it might be, but I'm not an expert. So wondering what your take is on that.
Well, first, to digress a little bit, there's sort of an overarching theme, I should say, that we've taken into account the effects of the disease and are protecting people from, the physical illness of COVID.
Right.
But I don't know that anyone ever imagined what the fallout of the cure was going to be.
Right.
The isolation, the separating people from their social environment, the change in their day-to-day life, particularly focused on kids, the effects on the family. There were many, many unintended consequences of what has happened, because sometimes the cure, it can be worse than the disease. And I think in so many areas, there are many, many areas that it has been.
Right.
Not minimizing COVID, but, have we found the right balance here where we look at a person holistically and we say physical health is one aspect, but mental health and family health, is also another part of it, and jobs and providing money, parents being able to work and trying to figure out how do I do that with my kids that need to be home and helping them and more time together. So
right.
That was kind of one thing, just overall is overarching for me, is that I'm not sure we've done such a great job at looking at the overall.
I was going to say, if people are joining us, we're speaking with family therapist Randy Noblitt. You're in Westlake.
I'm in Westlake Village, yes.
And, you said something in the very beginning, which struck me, is this has been a life event. And I don't know if you use that in your practice as when things do take place, whether it's a marriage, a divorce, a death, a pandemic. I like how you phrase that as a life event, because we can look at that positively, negatively. We can really unpack it and figure out how we navigate through it. And I think, I was talking about this actually yesterday, how we have changed as a society in the normal things that we would do, from routine, from getting up in the morning, getting dressed, showering, getting dressed, going to work or school. That's changed. how we respond to certain things that have taken place, someone in your family passing away, that whole ritual has changed. But are those changes then psychologically damaging us? Is it permanent? How do we get back to that? Is it, I mean, that's what, we're both wanting to know different things. Like, how do we manage that part of it as a parent, as just a human being?
Well, I would say this, life events, things that happen to people are really always based, we learn in trauma work, is they're always based in the interpretation of the event by an individual. So in other words, it's not always going to be interpreted the same way. I can have an event and you can have an event and you can have an event, and we can interpret that differently. Some it doesn't bother. I have some kids that are thriving. Mm-hmm. They're home and they're feeling less stressed and they're doing the best they've ever done in school. And some of that happens. And I have other kids that are hating life and they're lonely and they're depressed and they have anxiety. So this is definitely a life event. This is definitely one of those pivotal events. Is it permanent? It can be for some, that it's going to be a problem that they're going to need to work through a lot of things, depending on how they interpret this life event. And for others, they'll just go back and they'll move into the flow again and get back into the routine, and all will be well with the world for them. So it just depends really on, the person, the individual themselves. But as a collective, there has been a tremendous effect on young people. And I've actually had these conversations where I'm saying, how is it affecting you? And you mentioned some of them earlier when you were kind of introing that, their social circle is gone. Their motivation for many of them is gone. They are spending time more isolated than they ever have before. I had one say to me that I'm just not motivated. I'm not even calling my friends.
Wow.
And they call me and go, well, dude, why don't you reach out to me? They go, I don't know. I just don't feel motivated.
So what is that? What is that lack of motivation? Is it fear? Is it
it's depression? Maybe. I mean, what are the signs of depression? That you see in a child. What are some of the signs?
One of them that will be certainly sadness, but what you'll often see where being older, we might go more into the sadness. They may go more into irritability. So oftentimes a parent will say, well, my kid doesn't seem sad. Well, is he irritable? Oh my gosh, yes. You can't say anything to him, but he doesn't take your head off. Well, depression.
Okay.
Irritability is a sign, particularly in a teenager. Isolation. Things they used to enjoy, they don't enjoy anymore. Oh yeah, they used to like to go out and play golf. They don't want to go anymore. They used to ride their bike a lot. They don't ride anymore. They are isolated. I see they're a lot more in their room. So isolation. Lower energy level. Sometimes a desire that they just want to escape. They just don't want to be doing what they're doing. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to be here. And, to and including for some, as you mentioned, Bliss, earlier, the, suicidality that we see in some. So I would say those are the kind of the major signs that you look for in depression. And of course, anxiety is a part of that. And we can usually see irritability with that, and that, the stress level raises, and you can tell that they're overwhelmed with things maybe they wouldn't ordinarily react to, but they're reacting to them. So you can see, the anxiety piece and the depression piece being in both of them. And the anxiety one kind of rears its head when they start talking about going back. And I know we're not talking about this yet, but the going back raises that anxiety level for them.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. My son's a senior this year. And I said, Tristan, are you excited about going back to school? He goes, I don't think I want to do it. Cause he has a choice. He goes, I don't think I want to do it. I said, why? And he goes, I'm okay with what I have, what I've got going on, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it. And I said, but what about your friends? Don't you want to go see your friends? Well, that was a week ago. And now he's decided that he does want to go back to school. But I think, I know, from being a mom that kids like routine, right? They love routine.
Right.
They've had to develop a whole new routine of how they do everything pretty much.
Yes.
And now we're asking them to pivot yet again and develop another routine. And it's not going to be, it's still not going to be like their old routine. It might be a little similar, but it's going to be different,
right.
And you have, Bliss, you have two pieces of that. There's one of the issues, which is just the change in the routine. They've gotten used to the way they're doing it.
Even though it's not the best routine, but they're used to it.
We all have to adjust.
Right.
And we make whatever adjustments we need to as human beings, whatever that is. If we're getting old, we make adjustments to a slower life, and somebody that goes into a care facility has to adjust to that, right?
Right.
They don't get to drive everywhere and go over it. So they adjust. So we can adjust to that. What I'm seeing, though, is a level of anxiety about social again. Because if you think about it, many young people, it's the exception, the real outgoing, type A person. But you have many, many people, by and large, the largest percentage have self-doubt. They may not feel great socially. They may be introverted. They may be very worried about how they're perceived. And it was a push for them to get to that place of functionality in school where they were accepted and had a group of friends. It was a push for them to get there. Well, now they've been out of that. And I hear from so many, I'm concerned about going back. I don't know if I can do social again.
Wow.
And in that part, that's kind of where I then have to kind of talk to them and talk them through that.
And so what do you tell them? Like how, what are some tools that we can give them to overcome the anxiety about going back to school?
Okay. Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about is, what I'll talk about with them is I try to normalize their concern. So that's the first thing. I'm going to say, of course you feel that way. There probably is something wrong with you if you didn't feel that way.
Okay.
I said, I can give you a parallel. If I'm going to go speak in front of a group of people and I haven't done it in a while, I'm going to have some nerves about it. That's normal. So I try to normalize it, like make them not feel as though there's something wrong with them for feeling that way.
Okay.
It makes sense that you feel that way. And they go, oh, that's good. I'm normal. Yes, you're normal. Wow. Okay. I'm not a freak. I'm fine. Okay, good. And then I talk to them about, because it's normal, you have to realize that it's going to take a little time to adjust. In the same way as public speaking, you're going to have nerves when you go up front to speak. You're going to have nerves when you go back to school because this is important to you. And by and large, I see a lot of young people, when they're at school, they're very self-conscious. The last thing they want is to be noticed in a classroom. That's a fear of theirs. Like, I don't want to do something stupid and have everyone laugh at me or something like that. So there's a real, Erin's sitting staring at me. No, they're not. The cheerleader's worried about how she's looking good, for the game coming up. The athlete's over there doing his thing. There's another person sitting there that's not even engaged, thinking about something else after school. So no one's looking at you. You don't need to feel that self-conscious. You'll be fine. Give yourself a chance to acclimate again. Everyone is in the same boat as you are.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You realize that 60, 70% of the people, probably more, have some anxiety about coming back. Even the ones that would surprise you.
Right.
So I try to normalize it, try to tell them that it's going to be a process and that they will re-engage and they will adjust probably more quickly than they've adjusted COVID because they've been there before. With COVID, none of us have been here before.
Oh,
Right.
that's
New
true.
territory.
That was very new.
Territory.
Yeah. At least they know that they've been to school. They know what school looks like.
Yes.
Exactly.
They know what the classroom looks like. It's just going to be a little different, and it's been a while. But
Right.
yeah.
Randy, you mentioned
This was new for everyone.
Right.
You mentioned isolation. We've
Yes.
seen isolation in us staying at home. Kids are isolating in their bedrooms. They're also isolating online. And
Right.
with the device that they use for so many hours now for education, then they're still on it for any type of socialization or just, downtime.
Right.
What do you see in terms of any effects from long-term usage of being in front of a screen?
Well, I will tell you that I see burnout for being in front of a screen for sure, particularly in the educational setting, because they're sitting, some of them were sitting there for so many hours in a day and they get to the end and they're drained. And so I'll give you an example of something where I can support and understand what they feel. For a while with COVID, I had to do my sessions in therapy on Zoom. And what I noticed at the end of the day of how tired I was, because it was a different medium for me and a different medium for my clients. Because it's abnormal for all of us. So this is an abnormal way of learning for them. And I think that they get tired of sitting in front of a screen. We all get tired. If we're in our computer all day long, we kind of think, well, why am I so tired? Well, I was at my computer all day long. There's a different energy level. When students are in a classroom, they get energy from each other, from the teacher, and so on. In the same way as my therapy, I get energy from my client gets energy from me. And for me to replicate that on a screen takes an inordinate amount of energy.
Right.
So I have to really give at another level. I have to be able to move closer to the screen when I'm saying something to try to connect where I would move closer in my office or be more emphatic about something. So I think that they're experiencing all of these same kind of things. And then if you add to that, they don't have the social interaction. I had one person say to me, I used to do a lot of projects in class with my fellow students, with my friends. We do projects and we were collaborative. We don't have that. I sit and listen to a lecture. And I think they kind of wear down. You can only handle so much of a teacher lecturing, and then they would break it down into a project where people would break out and do certain things. And that kind of got people excited and a little bit more energized. So it's definitely a challenge, and you definitely see burnout. But then what do you do as a parent? Do you tell your son or daughter, you got to be off your device? Well, what about their social?
Because that's the way they
That is
socialize
their
now.
social.
That is their social.
That is a social.
That is their social.
Yeah.
So you say, no, when you're done with school, you're not on your device. Well, okay. You just cut their social off.
Boy,
Now, there has to be a limitation to that, of course, but you've got to realize that is their lifeline. That is their connection to their friend group.
What's a good way for parents that you could maybe a tip about setting a boundary of some type, or I know we can't get them off the device, but is there something that you've seen that works in a family setting? Is it dinner table? Is it a board game? Is it just the talking pillow? What would you suggest to help engage that more verbal and empathetic and eyesight, looking at people in their eyes?
And just to take a break from the screen. I mean,
Right.
I would think a break is good, right?
Yeah. I think that parents have to be parents and they have to limit it. As much as their son or daughter is not going to want it to be limited. And so when I'm saying they need screen time, I don't mean they need it for, the rest of the night after dinner. There still needs to be some parental involvement in that. And so it can be the kind of thing where you say, hey, take an hour, connect up with your friends, At that point, I want you to come out of the room. I want you to put your phone up on the counter, and we're going to hang out as a family. We're going to watch a show, or we're going to play a board game, or we're going to do something. And, you know, in the beginning, that's not going to be super popular with their kids. You're telling me what to do and all that, you know, and Johnny gets to do it and Betty gets to do it and their parents don't do that and all that. But if you're concerned about it, limiting their screen time, they do need to have a break and they need to interact with real people too.
Amazing. Well, Randy,
because they see social interaction as texting or,
right.
You know, and that's their social interaction. They use the word, I talked to so-and-so. Well, they didn't. They texted
them. Yeah. And it means different things.
And 93% of meaning, they say, comes from nonverbal, which is your facial expressions, your body language, your tone of voice, and your volume of voice. And only 7% is the words. So that means they're only getting texting back and forth. They're getting 7%. They're really not interacting with a human being, but they think they're talking to them.
That is so amazing. I am so capturing that. Wow. Randy, thank you so much. We've already, I mean, we're beyond 20 minutes. Who knew?
Well, what
this topic's huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. But what I take away is just normalizing things for your kids. I think that's so important because they're feeling so different and that they're experiencing something new, and that must feel really isolating just to experience something different and new that they haven't experienced before. So I love the idea of normalizing things and giving examples of how, you know, well, I feel uncomfortable when I do this and talking to them about that. So I'm going to use that for my son as he goes back to school on Monday, finally.
I think it's so great.
But yeah, that's really good. Thank you so much, Randy. I knew you would
You're
be
welcome.
awesome.
Yeah. What's a good way for people? Do you want to share any information on how people can get in touch with you, or do you have a blog or anything like that?
I have, I can be reached, I'm on Psychology Today. I have a website on Psychology Today under my name.
Okay.
And I can be reached that way. I am in Westlake Village area. And I can give my phone number if you want that. It's 310-386-1100. And I certainly can be a help to parents if they need to figure out in this particular area, if they need to figure out what to do with their sons or their daughters and how they can help them best, or, you know, to have them bring their children in or to do family sessions. So I really pretty much do all of that. And sometimes it's a hybrid. Awesome. So if people have a need for that and it can be helpful, you know, I'm here and happy to help.
Awesome.
Randy, thank you so much. We really appreciate your advice. And I think this is something that we will continue to need to learn more and share more.
Absolutely.
So
You're more than welcome.
Absolutely.
Happy to be here. And thank you for the opportunity.
All right.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, you and I knew that we needed to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders. I don't know about you, but I have some tools now from my son.
Well, that's the key. It's tools. It's getting tools to be able to manage just the situation that takes place. You know, it's you just don't know at the moment. And it happens, like this happened immediately. Like it was just a 180.
Yeah.
And for us to adjust. But I think just my gut feeling was to not react so that my kids saw a scary reaction. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like
and
for us to not show that.
And who hasn't felt fear in all of this?
Right.
We've all felt fear at many different levels.
Exactly.
And, you know, I purposely turned off the news for a while because I just didn't want to read about it, hear about it. It was really frightening.
Right.
And imagine how our kids felt, same way, you know. But, you know, getting through that part, we've gotten through that, right? But now we've got these new things happening with the transitioning back to school and you know, just helping them with that. So I think we're going to, you know, see more of that and hopefully we don't go backwards. We keep moving forwards with, you know, the way things are going.
Yeah.
Because that would be awful.
That would not be good. That would not be good.
That'd be a whole nother episode. So hopefully we just, you know, keep progressing and things get better for everyone.
I agree.
Yeah.
Very good show.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited for our next episodes coming up. We've got a lot of exciting people that we're getting ready to talk to, and, really paying attention to the school devices that our kids are using now, that they're going back to school shortly. So if you have questions about anything in that topic, we are ready to share that information with you. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at riskybusiness@schooldevicecoverage.com. And we hope you come back. Come back and be with us, the coverage queens.
Thank you so much, everyone.
And I'm Kathy, and this is Bliss, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.